Tyson Fury versus Dillian Whyte not ordered by the WBC yet, as situation takes unexpected twist due to ongoing legal battle. The sanctioning body stated that they would give Fury 30 days to try and agree an undisputed title fight with Alexander Usyk, or he must defend against their interim belt holder, which is White. Now obviously Joshua is going to be trying to avenge his loss against Usyk, so that fight was not on the table. But due to an ongoing legal battle that Dillian has with the WBC, they haven't ordered the fight. Now, it's been several months or so since Dillian had taken action against the sanctioning body in pursuit of his title shot. Now, TalkSport have said little is known about the specifics of the case. The WBC indicated that the case is currently in an arbitration court with no resolution as yet. Hence, they cannot order a mandatory. When asked about the ongoing case back in July, Eddie said, yeah, it's still ongoing. Dillian is pushing for answers and some justice. So it's unknown what will happen next, and at present no time frame has been given for the resolution of the legal case. Well, wouldn't it be simple as, okay Dillian, we'll give you the title shot, drop the lawsuit. So now what? Cancel the Otto Wallin fight, inactivity is going to creep in. I guarantee you, he don't get a crack at that belt without taking some eliminator or going through some hoops of some kind. They're going to order Wilder versus Dillian. That's what I believe. Will Wilder step up? I knew it wasn't just going to go through like that. I knew 100%. And I said several times. Now, if Tyson Fury was a man of any integrity, he would just say, well, look, let's get it on. What do we have to do to get this fight ready for next year? And that would literally make the WBC and everything else fall into place and fall in line. Can't Dillian just call them up and say, okay, I'll call off the lawsuit, give me my title shot? Marcus Villegas, he's saying top rank officials have stated that if Fury versus White is made, that it should be an 80-20 split. Noted that Fury has made 20 million in his last two fights, and White only pocketing 300k in his last fight. What was the numbers in his last fight though? I don't know what the numbers were, the pay-per-view numbers. I don't know if he got 300,000. They're saying he got £4 million here for the Povetkin rematch. I don't know. I think he got a little more than 300,000 though. That might still relegate him to 2080 according to the WBC rules though. And it just gets better and better. You know. This is why I don't rush to edit these videos. Tyson Fury may take part in voluntary defense while Dillian Whyte and WBC settle legal dispute. And listen to this Frank Warren. We want to get Tyson out there early next year. Tyson will want to be active. Just a few weeks back, what was Warren saying? Oh, I can't control Fury. He might not want to take the Dillian fight, but now you want to be active. Listen, man, listen. I'm not even pissed off anymore. I'm not going to be here. Tyson Fury, that. I just know I just don't rate him like his fan club do. That's all I know. It's basically the same shit that Wilder was getting away with. Now Fury's getting away with it. I mean, the WBC are rotten. So that 80-20 purse split in Fury's favour is down to the WBC's discretion. The WBC rules about fights between full and interim champions could have a 55-45 purse split, although it is at their discretion to overrule that. And you know which way they're going to rule with Dillian. All this Tyson Fury is this working class Viking warrior. He's a protected fighter. And I don't give a fuck who don't like it. That's what he is. He's a protected fighter. That's why he came out today saying he's proud to be a WBC heavyweight champion. Don't speak about nothing about fighting Dillian Whyte. Listen, man. I've noticed the pattern. I'm not going to go too deep into it right now because I just can't be bothered. But it's funny how certain fighters are pressured into fighting their mandatories. But some of you boxing fans just let Fury skip out on all his obligations and you want to talk up the free Wilder fights when Fury has basically been running and hiding from all the other prominent names in the division. It's sickening, to be honest. It's absolutely sickening. You know what I mean, most boxing fans are not worth a soiled piece of toilet roll that I've used. Too good to be true. The Ron Richards versus Gongora, I think that's still going through on the undercard of Parker versus Chisora. But Joshua BUATSI has been injured and he's withdrawing from his fight. And DAZN made a point of saying his dangerous fight with Maxime VLASOV. Will they reschedule? You know, they've got Lee McGregor replacing him. He signed a co-promotional deal with Matchroom and Probellum. How does that work? Oh, I get it. He signed with Probellum, but they're going to put him on Matchroom cards, on DAZN cards. I get it. Well, I think I get it. Probellum don't have a network deal as yet, so they're probably just going to outsource fighters to different networks and promotions. Now, I'm not really interested in the Lee McGregor fight because I wanted to see VLASOV versus BUATSI. Now, a lot of people are saying, and can't blame them, after Saturday gone with Terry Harper and Kid Galahad going down for Matchroom and DAZN, they got cold feet on the VLASOV fight and it was co-signed into the dustbins of boxing. Is that the case? Awfully disappointing for, I'm going to say this, you know, like without sounding pretentious, real boxing fans. Awfully disappointing and extremely disappointing for DAZN subscribers. They're saying it's a hand injury. And don't start with all that. I want to see medical certificates because you're not going to believe it anyway. And I'm not sure if I would either. Now, my guess is, well, my two guesses are either the Saturday card gone scared the shit out of Eddie and DAZN and whoever else is connected to the setup, scared them shitless, and they decided to withdraw BUATSI in case he suffered the same fate as Galahad or Harper, or they've got a world title shot lined up for Joshua early to mid next year. They might just go straight in and fight Bivol or Joe Smith or maybe even Beterbiev, who knows. Or guess what? He might actually be injured. Couple of fights that I really couldn't care much about. Tank Davis versus Isaac Cruz. Triple G versus Murata. I know it's a unification, but just not excited by them fights. Okay, to my American subscribers, give me some feedback here. The Crawford Porter pay-per-view will be only purchased if you are an ESPN Plus subscriber. You cannot go through the regular pay-per-view channels on cable, dish, apps, etc. It seems, tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like they're trying to get people to sub up to this ESPN Plus platform. That's what they're trying to do. Now, unless you're going to illegally stream it, how will it affect the way you would purchase a pay-per-view like this normally on ESPN? Bob is saying that the other platforms don't particularly work well anymore when doing pay-per-view. So they're going ESPN Plus like the UFC, and he reckons it could be UFC numbers from 500,000 and as high as 1.5 million with Crawford and Porter. What? So this ESPN Plus platform now has 19 million subscribers. Bobby's saying they can publicize it and constantly email their subscribers, and that's how the UFC are doing huge numbers. Need I remind him that Crawford and Porter are not UFC fighters. So Eddie goes on his 3-week US run, starting with Jason Quigley challenging Demetrius Andrade for the WBO 160-pound title. That's going to be on Friday. Why Friday? Why not Friday? I've seen Quigley a few times. I thought the Shane Mosley Jr. majority decision could have went either way. Can't remember too much about the fight, but I wasn't that impressed. And he's also lost to Terreno Johnson. It would be a massive upset if Andrade loses to Quigley. Let's face it. Andrade racking up the defenses. This will be his 5th defense of that WBO belt. And that's what he should do. Just keep racking them up. If you can't get the big fights, hey, what can you do? Not the best voluntary, but they weren't going to take any chances with the belt. It's in-house. Quigley fights on DAZN, as does Andrade. Quigley tries to counterpunch with Andrade, long rangy southpaw. It's going to get picked off. I don't know if he has what it takes. Well, I don't believe he has what it takes to walk Andrade down. I'm not expecting Andrade to look extra spectacular. I think he'll be competent at best, and he'll still have his belt come Saturday morning. And then next week we get the long-awaited unified lightweight defense from Teofimo Lopez against George Kambosos Jr. About bloody time. That's next Saturday. Once again, I'm picking the favourite, and that's Teo, to retain his belts at 135. Then on the 4th of December, Devin Haney defends his WBC 135-pound belt against Joseph Diaz. I like the fights. I like the cards. They're okay. Martinez versus Arroyo on the undercard of Andrade. That's a firefight. But will the American DAZN subscribers be satisfied with Eddie's 3-week run across the pond? I've heard some people saying that, Haney should leave because he can't get fights with the likes of Tank. But Tank don't want to fight nobody. And by the way, Haney is a free agent. He's not signed to Matchroom. He didn't re-sign. I'm not even going to say anything about Leonard Ellerby. The of Eddie for asking for a fight against Tank reply was like, is it that unreasonable to ask Tank to fight one of his rivals in the same weight class as him? But what the fuck Eddie have got to do with it? Why is it like Leonard Ellerby's issue is with Eddie Hearn? He's trying to get a fight for his boxer. Tank's there laughing while Leonard's saying fuck Eddie, but has Tank become a bit of a joke? I'm not being dismissive, but has he just become a bit of a joke? I want to big up Jojo Diaz, He doesn't complain about taking on the movers. He took on Gary Russell, who used a lot of footwork to outpoint him. He took on Tevin Farmer, who he defeated. And now he's taking on Devin, another boxer. Although I'm expecting Devin to try and back Diaz up. That's what I'm expecting. I don't know if he can do it, but that's what I'm expecting. Any potential upsets that Eddie might have to look out for across the pond in them free cards. Now, Ade asks Tony Bellew whether Canelo can beat WBC cruiserweight champion Lalenga Makabu. Now, that's who Bellew won his cruiserweight title for back in 2016. Bellew said he'd have to be careful of Makabu's left hand. The boy can really punch. He snapped Bellew's nose and put him on his back for 4 or 5 seconds. Made him do a somersault, actually, from that same punch. Now, the reason we're talking about Makabu right now is because he's a small cruiserweight. But as Bellew said, he's small, but he's extremely powerful. But he said he wouldn't write Canelo off. The only time he would write him off is if he goes up to heavyweight. That's too much. Now, that conversation was on the day that Canelo was taking on Caleb Plant for all 4 belts at 168. But today, the WBC has approved at Canelo to face WBC cruiserweight champion Lalenga Makabu. At Canelo's team, the current plan is for this fight to take place in May 2022. First thing I'm thinking is they basically throw opportunities at this guy and screw Dillian over so much. And there's a few things in Dillian's case where maybe Dillian hasn't always did the right thing, but that was the first thought in my head. Now, people are going to ask why he's not taking on Brady's. I don't know too much about Arsene Goulamarian, to be honest, but people are going to ask why he's not taking on the likes of Brady's and Okoli. Well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves right now. It's just talk, isn't it, right now? But will he be cherry-picking? Makabu is a credible cruiserweight champion. He's been in some very good fights. Hits hard. You could call it cherry-picking, but some of you were saying that David Benavidez is a great challenger for Canelo. What is he doing? Who is he fighting? So Canelo goes and makes these interesting fights while the likes of Benavidez and Charlo don't do that much. Okay, look, Charlo's had wins over the likes of Derevyanchenko, J-Rock Williams at 154. All good wins at the time, but no matter which way you go, Canelo's 154, 160, 168 resume shits all over whatever them guys have done at any weight class. David and Jamal. Bottom line, he's not even a discussion. David Benavidez is a naturally bigger guy. Let's see him go take on a light heavyweight. We're talking about Canelo fighting cruiserweight champions. Let's see Benavidez take on a light heavy. Let's see Charlo take on a light heavy or a cruiserweight. Or at least fight each other. No, they don't need to do that. They just need to fight Canelo. That's absolutely ridiculous. And if that becomes a popular narrative, I support Canelo just doing whatever he likes doing. Neither Jamal or David appear to have busy schedules right now. What are they waiting for? Have the fight now and put yourself in position. Because if he does go and fight MAKABU and wins, and your opposing point is, well, he didn't fight Okolie and Brady's real big cruiserweights, it's crazy. David Benavidez' career hasn't got out of first gear. Charlo hasn't had an impressive win on his career for a while. I mean, his middleweight record, I mean, I heard someone saying, people say Charlo doesn't fight anyone, he fought Derevyachenko. Yeah, that was a good win, considering Derevyachenko had been beaten twice, not too long before Charlo got to him, by Jacobs and Triple G. It's okay, but it's really not all that. If Canelo would beat Derevyachenko after Jacobs and Triple G fought him, you would have been calling him all types of cherry picker, but now you're trying to hold up Jamal's win over Derevyachenko like he's doing something groundbreaking. So how much should David Benavidez and Charlo get when they fight Canelo? Should they get 10 million like Caleb? Is that because they're not going to get 10 million? They're not going to get 10 million. Caleb got 10 million because Canelo wanted that belt to become undisputed. There's no way with them resumes, DAZN or Al Heyman for that matter is going to pay Benavidez or Charlo 10 million to fight Canelo. It's not happening. And knowing Charlo, he's probably going to say, why ain't I getting the same money as Caleb? Because you've got nothing to offer. So it's not only opponents are the wrong side of the street, they won't even fight each other to build up a credible contender to fight the likes of Canelo. Maybe some of you haven't watched MAKABU. MAKABU is a fierce warrior, and any current fighter who started at 154 challenging MAKABU has to be given credit by modern day standards. Well, you're talking absolute bullshit on every level. You know, some of you are the same people who were bigging up Roy Jones when he beat John Ruiz for the WBC heavyweight title. But at the same time, Roy didn't fight Lennox Lewis or Mike Tyson, but it was a great achievement. Taking on a heavyweight for his belt, just like Canelo taking on MAKABU, will be a great achievement, considering that he started at 154. And if you believe that this is a convenient way to duck David Benavidez by fighting MAKABU because you believe Benavidez is a tougher fight than MAKABU.
So what you want, Hobbs? Dope or dog food?
Let's make no mistake. This is the toughest fight of Canelo's career. Now, if I see any weight clauses, rehydration clauses, then I won't be so impressed. Here's what I don't get though. Every opponent Canelo announces, there's all this, oh, why is he fighting him? Why is he fighting him? And then the alternatives, the guys you're suggesting he fight, look at their last opponents. That's what I don't get. That's what pisses me off. I hate when I'm having to defend fighters that I'm not particularly keen on. Here we go, Triller. Kubrat Pulev comes back to fight Frank Mir. Is Frank Mir the guy who fought and lost to Steve Cunningham on one of them Triller cards? I don't know, Matt Mitrone is on the Flores, I'm not too sure. Mike Perry versus Sakio Bika. Bika's coming back. They've dug up Brian Vera against Derek Campos. I don't know the rest of the names there. That's on the 27th, in a couple of weeks' time. Huey Fury wants Derek Chisora or Joseph Parker, but Chris Arreola is lined up first. You want them names there? Well, why did you sign with Sky? You want Chisora and Joseph Parker. Anyone interested in Huey Fury versus Chris Arreola? It depends what Arreola turns up. If he turns up just for a payday, not really, but most people would be satisfied if we got the Chris Arreola returned up for Andy Ruiz. It would be a good name for Huey's resume. Stopped Christian Hammer last time. He said he wants Joseph Parker. Nobody wants to see a repeat of that fight. And Shades of Ali. That'd be a rematch, wouldn't it? Huey, spare us, man. Spare us. That fight was horrible. There's a card on Saturday on Sky. Richard Riakporhe versus Duradola. Duradola obviously took out, was it Khrushchev when he was undefeated and knocking everybody out. But he suffered some bad knockout losses, and if Richard has any boxing IQ at all, he should be able to avoid any danger Duradola possesses early and get a points win or a late stoppage. If he's going to do anything on the Sky platform, that's the least they'll be expecting. Caroline Dubois makes her professional debut. Daniel's sister. Florian Marcoux, he's on the card. Some people think he's a bit of a character and a fighter. I'm not convinced. Not really. Hosea Burton versus Dan Aziz for the British light heavyweight title. Now, I do want to see that fight there. I do want to see that fight. Mikel Lawal, cruiserweight. He's not a bad fighter. He's not bad. Doesn't look like he's got an opponent announced. So the WBC have ordered Virgil Ortiz versus David Avanesian. Final eliminator for Errol Spence's WBC 147-pound belt. Now, who doesn't like this fight? Will it get made is the bigger question. It's a very risky fight for either man. What purses do the fighters want for this fight? Is it going to go to a purse bid? I prefer this than Avanesian and Neil Marsh constantly calling out Conor Benn when Conor Benn's promoter is saying, well, we're not ready for the fight. Why are you calling out people who are saying they're not ready? You don't get no points for that. What points do you get for that? They're saying we're not ready. They're saying they're not ready. It's not like they're saying they can beat you and then you're calling them out and they don't want the smoke. This isn't the case. So I'd rather see that fight there. We spoke about Canelo and Lalenga Makabu. They've also called for Jaime Munguia, the WBC, to take on Sergei Derevyachenko, another eliminator. That would be for Jamal Charlo's belt. That's interesting. That's very interesting, that one. I think Munguia will beat Derevyachenko. I think he will. Won't be easy, but I think he'll beat him. And I would definitely like to see Munguia versus Charlo next year. I mean, we've already seen Charlo Derevyachenko. It was a good fight, but I'd rather see Munguia Charlo sometime next year if he can beat Derevyachenko. So some good eliminators called by the WBC. Shame how they're treating Dylan.